Joining us now, Kellyanne Conway, who is the campaign manager for Donald Trump throughout this process, a longtime friend of mine and somebody that really, I don't think you slept for, 2 months, 3 months? You didn't sleep at all.
Whatever I did or didn't do, Sean, it was completely worth it because we won. And the voters, really, America got what it's been asking pollsters for about 3 decades. Somebody who's outside the system, a total disruptor, someone who will go to Washington owing no one anything. And frankly, somebody who in his everyday life, as an entrepreneur, as a successful businessman, as a job creator, is accountable. He has to come up with deliverables and product and quarterly reports and payrolls every week and benefits for his employees and just get things running on time, under budget, and on schedule. And that's what we need in a president, and that's what people wanted.
You know, I sent you a picture drawn. It was a painting drawn by John McNaughton, who I happen to like. He draws patriotic paintings, religious theme paintings, and I really like the guy a lot. And he had what I think is his signature work, and he calls it The Forgotten Man. And it has all the presidents up to and including Obama. In Obama's case, he's actually stomping on the Constitution. And then you got this guy in a bench, obviously depressed. Every rung in the ladder to climb to success has been taken away from him, hurt by government. And I kind of look at this as the forgotten man election. Does that make sense to you?
It makes complete sense. And in fact, it ended up being part of the closing statement that Donald Trump made to the people. Sean, he talked about the forgotten man and the forgotten woman. He talked about it at his Gettysburg speech. He talked about it. I was with him that last night when we went backwards. We went from Manchester, New Hampshire to Grand Rapids, Michigan, got home at 4:15 a.m. on actual election day. And he was talking that very night about how he had not created a typical political campaign. He had made a movement, and that the forgotten man and forgotten woman thought they were part of it. Now, let's review who is not a forgotten man or forgotten woman. The lobbyists, the consultants, the donors, the party regulars, and in other words, the folks who are part of the professional consultant class. I've talked to you for years, Sean, about what I call staff infection. The fact that we get the same people running the same campaigns again and again. The Republican candidates lose, and then the consultants always blame the candidates. Oh, I'm so brilliant. Had they just listened to me? But this one's too old. That one was too stiff. That one didn't listen. It's like, guys, the other thing they all have in common is you, and we don't need you on this this effort, and we certainly don't want them to have outsized importance in the next administration. This is going to be, because this was a campaign about the forgotten man and forgotten woman, the people who believe the system is rigged and corrupt against them, they've got their nose pressing against the glass looking in. All they want, Sean, is an opportunity. All they want is a fair shake. All they want is for the system to work for everyone. And now you're going to see an administration really crafted in that same way.
You see that. What do you make of the reaction? Everything from Harry Reid. It's really, I saw outside of Trump Tower all the people protesting. I was with you recently after the election, and people are trying to get in your grill and your face and yelling at you, and you challenged one guy, and you said, well, what exactly do you mean? And then they have no answer.
They have no answer.
And also the media's complicity here.
Well, it's very disappointing because, as your fabulous montage before I came on to speak today, Sean, proves, the media just were not prepared for a Donald Trump victory. And shame on them. You know why? Because it means they don't get America. If you didn't see this coming, you don't see America for who it is. All of the clues and cues about the Donald Trump victory over Hillary Clinton were hiding in plain sight. Let's review. It's a change election. Over 72% of Americans say they want to take the country in a new and different direction. That choice was very clear. You've got someone representing the status quo of 30 years versus someone who literally is the embodiment of change and outsider disruption for Washington. And number two, all I ever talked about was Hillary Clinton's nagging, stubborn 46% ceiling. She just couldn't get anywhere near the 52-53% margins that Obama received twice in states like Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and frankly, Florida and Ohio and Iowa. All these states that Donald Trump won, that Romney and McCain lost. Number three, people cared about ethics and corruption. They care about good government. They care about honesty. And so when Hillary and the media doing her biggest super PAC, I thought her most effective super PAC were the mainstream media, when they went and they said, she can't lose and she's got it wrapped up, she's got qualifications and experience, you know what Americans said? Hey, I think honesty and trustworthiness is a criterion. I think that's a qualification for president. I think the fact that people didn't trust her, they didn't like her, she had the email problem, the Clinton Foundation, it really was, this was the elites versus the rest of us election. And you know what people found out? There are a heck of a lot more of everyday people than there are of elites, but I blame the whole access, AXIS, of the consultants, the mainstream media. People just didn't want to see what America was saying. I think the election was of two complicated people with very simple ideas. She wanted the election to be about Donald Trump, and he wanted the election to be about the people.
It really did come across to me that way. You know, you and I had many behind-the-scenes conversations, and you always, in every conversation, said, look at her number. And your background as a pollster. I've interviewed you for years on polling information, and you said she never gets above 46%. She can't break that ceiling, and she never did, and it was worse than people anticipated. What did you think of the New York Times? Cheryl Atkinson pointed out rightly in her website, they refused to run negative stories on Hillary. Now the Times publisher is vowing to rededicate his paper to reporting honestly. You got that CNN little pipsqueak, what's his name, Stelter, it's time for soul searching. So I wrote him on Twitter and I said, will you admit that CNN was colluding with the Clinton campaign? Let's start with the soul searching at home. And, of course, no answer. So, to me, I don't think the media is going to change. I mean, look at the attacks on Steve Bannon today. No. And I'm like, I've known Steve Bannon all these years. There's a great column by our friend David Horowitz that says all of this is nonsense, these charges against him, but they need something to continue the narrative, the false narrative they began.
Well, they do. By the way, it's now irresponsible. Everybody, they're still fighting the last war because they thought they had won it without a skirmish. And now they're not moving on to a peaceful transition into forming President Trump and Vice President Pence's government. They're fighting the election, so they're saying, oh, we've got to stop the madman. Look at these people around him. Look at these philosophies. It's crazy, Sean. You know that they had prepared for a Hillary victory and were already asking the likes of me 50 times a day, will he accept the election results? Will he encourage protesters to stand down and not wreak havoc? Will he be responsible and show respect for the office of the presidency? Okay, you know what? We were asking the right questions about the wrong candidate and the wrong candidate's supporters. And I'm with Bernie Sanders on this. I saw he gave an interview today. Maybe it was on The View, maybe it was somewhere else, but he gave an interview today where he said he thought it was a disgrace the way his party just can't connect with working men and working women. And this was his message. I mean, Hillary Clinton, she was shocked twice this year. First by Bernie Sanders. That should have been everyone's first clue that she didn't have the juice to do this. He was beating her handily in states like Michigan, which she ended up losing. And you turn around Iowa, which she ended up losing, and you turn around and you see, and he says, I'm connecting with working class men and women. She loses 22 states and millions of votes to Bernie Sanders. And then you got Donald Trump as her general election opponent, and the message was the same. I mean, the other thing I just wanted to mention is, I think people were shocked to see. I was actually astonished. I was happily astonished, but astonished nonetheless, Sean. Her closing arguments, Hillary Clinton's closing arguments, were all so negative. And by the way, coming from a woman, a female messenger to boot, nothing uplifting, nothing optimistic,
Let me say one thing.
Nothing.
You were the first woman to ever successfully run a presidential campaign. And I read your comments this weekend, and I thought they were very touching because I know your husband. I know your kids. I had the best time playing football with your son in my studio during one of the busy nights you had, and you bring your kids with you. You should be very proud of that. And you said you're not a gender identity politics person, neither am I, but it is a huge accomplishment for you as the person, and I'm proud of you. And to me, the answer now going forward is simple. And I did have one conversation with President-elect Trump. I said, and I thought he encapsulated this well last night on 60 Minutes. He doesn't want a vacation. He wants to go to work. Just follow up on the promises. Yeah, I thought you were going to go to Florida. I thought you were going to take.
We'll go to Florida for the re-elect. We have to win. I went to Florida plenty because it was 29 electoral votes.
By the way, for the record, I guess there's something, my colleague Megyn Kelly wrote a book, and she says something like some suggestion that people got things. I've never been to a Donald Trump hotel. I've never been to a Donald Trump golf course. I've never been to a Donald Trump anything. I'm like, why? Some people writing me today, nothing. And I did it because I believe I want my fellow Americans to have opportunity again. I want the economy fixed.
Yes.
I want security. security. I want border security. I want Obamacare overturned. I want energy independence. I want lower tax cuts to stimulate the economy, education back to the states. I'm a pretty simple guy, Kellyanne.
And these were pretty simple messages. That's the thing. What cut through for Americans was his simple slogan, Make America Great Again. Tax reduction, job creation, 25 million jobs over the next 10 years. Unleash energy independence, Sean, so we're not relying on foreign dictators, and we're creating jobs and lowering the price of fuel here at home. And also, what did he talk about? Vocational, technical, educational opportunities. Not everybody has college material. Great. Go get a skill set. Go get a skill certificate in high school and go support yourself and your family. He also talked about repealing and replacing Obamacare. Now, with a Republican Congress, the excuse of divided government is over.
Yeah, well said.
It's completely gone. And so he's talking about convening a special session on Inauguration Day after he's sworn in as president to get it done. This guy's going to get things done meaningfully and quickly.
Are you going to Washington with him?
Possibly.
Possibly.
Welcome to.
I think.
Remember,
I'm insistent that you go. You need to be there.
Well, I appreciate that. It's been a great team. I mean, this has been an unbelievably solid and small core team of loyalists who have worked together beautifully. You see what he's done with Reince Priebus and Steve Bannon, elevating them to this shared power structure. We're all here together today in Trump Tower working on the transition. I'm very close to Vice President-elect Pence and his team. I mean, this is just a great team, and I have to say, it also means less is more. When I talk about that staph infection that happens with the consultancies, I mean, Hillary Clinton had like 8 times our staff and much more of our money, but it makes you feel gritty and focused. And you know what? It's very reflective of the American spirit and the way many Americans make tough choices and tend to manage their time and their resources in a way that is just smarter. You work harder, you work smarter. I think that's very indicative of how he's going to be in his administration.
I've got to run. Something else. Yeah, real quick.
Not a single consultant got rich off his campaign. Go check the FEC reports. I think that's very Donald Trump as well, because it just shows you the way he's going to run his government. And I plan to be by his side in some capacity. He's asked me to do that, and I would be honored. It's for the country.
I think it's an honor that we have great people like you willing to serve. Kellyanne,
Thank you, Sean.
I appreciate everything you've done. Thank you.
Take care.